Case is a grammatical category whose value reflects the grammatical function performed by a noun or pronoun in a phrase, clause, or sentence. In some languages, nouns, pronouns, and the modifiers take different inflected forms depending on what case they are in. English has largely lost its case system, although case distinctions can still be seen with the personal pronouns. Forms such as I, he and we are used in the role of subject, while forms such as me, him and us are used in the role of object. Languages such as Ancient Greek, Latin, Sanskrit, Hungarian, Turkish, Tamil, Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, Serbo-Croatian, Czech, Slovak, Finnish, Icelandic, Latvian and Lithuanian have extensive case systems, with nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and determiners all inflecting to indicate their case. A language may have a number of different cases. Commonly encountered cases include nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. A role that one of these languages marks by case will often be marked in English using a preposition. For example, the English prepositional phrase with foot might be rendered in Russian using a single noun in the instrumental case, or in Ancient Greek as tau pio micron delta iota toi podi, meaning the foot, with both words changing to dative form. As a language evolves, cases can merge, a phenomenon formerly called syncretism. More formally, case has been defined as a system of marking dependent nouns for the type of relationship they bear to their heads. Cases should be distinguished from thematic roles such as agent and patient. They are often closely related, and in languages such as Latin several thematic roles have an associated case, but cases are a morphological notion, while thematic roles are a semantic one. Languages having cases often exhibit free word order, since thematic roles are not required to be marked by position in the sentence. Etymology. The English word case used in this sense comes from the Latin casus, which is derived from the verb cadere, to fall, from the Proto-Indo-European root *card. The Latin word is a calque of the Greek pi tau sigma iota sigmatosis, lit. Falling, fall. The sense is that all other cases are considered to have fallen away from the nominative. This picture is also reflected in the word declension, from Latin declina, to lean, from the pi root *cli. The equivalent to case in several other European languages also derives from casus, including cas in French, caso in Spanish and cassis in German. The Russian word padaj similarly contains a root meaning fall, and the Czech pad simply means fall, and is used for both the concept of grammatical case and to refer to physical falls. The Finnish equivalent is saija, which can also mean position or support. Indo-European languages. While not very prominent in modern English, cases featured much more saliently in Old English and other ancient Indo-European languages, such as Latin, Ancient Greek, and Sanskrit. Historically, the Indo-European languages had 8 morphological cases, though modern languages typically have fewer, using prepositions and word order to convey information that had previously been conveyed using distinct noun forms. Among modern languages, cases still feature prominently in most of the Balto-Slavic languages, with most having 6 to 8 cases, as well as Icelandic, German and modern Greek, which have 4. In German, cases are mostly marked on articles and adjectives, and less so on nouns. In Icelandic, articles, adjectives, personal names and nouns are all marked for case, making it, among other things, the living Germanic language that could be said to most closely resemble Proto-Germanic. The 8 historical Indo-European cases are as follows, with examples either of the English case or of the English syntactic alternative to case. The nominative case indicates the subject of a finite verb. We went to the store. The accusative case indicates the direct object of a verb. The clerk remembered us. The dative case indicates the indirect object of a verb. The clerk gave us a discount. The ablative case indicates movement from something, or cause. The victim went from us to see the doctor, and he was unhappy because of depression. The genitive case, which roughly corresponds to English's possessive case and preposition of, indicates the possessor of another noun. John's book was on the table, and the pages of the book turned yellow. The vocative case indicates an addressee. John, are you all right? Or simply hello, John. The locative case indicates a location. We live in China. The instrumental case indicates an object used in performing an action. We wiped the floor with a mop. And written by hand. All of the above are just rough descriptions. The precise distinctions vary from language to language, and are often quite complex. Case is based fundamentally on changes to the noun to indicate the noun's role in the sentence. This is not how English works, where word order and prepositions are used to achieve this. Modern English has largely abandoned the inflectional case system of Indo-European in favor of analytic constructions. The personal pronouns of modern English retain morphological case more strongly than any other word class. For other pronouns, and all nouns, adjectives, and articles, grammatical function is indicated only by word order, by prepositions, and by the genitive clitic, s. Taken as a whole, English personal pronouns are typically said to have three morphological cases. The nominative case, used for the subject of a finite verb and sometimes for the complement of a copula. The oblique case, used for the direct or indirect object of a verb, for the object of a preposition, for an absolute disjunct, and sometimes for the complement of a copula. The genitive case, our, used for a grammatical possessor. This is not always considered to be a case. See English possessive. Status of the possessive as a grammatical case. Most English personal pronouns have 5 forms. The nominative and oblique case forms. The possessive case, which has both a determinative form and a distinct independent form, and a distinct reflexive or intensive form. The interrogative personal pronoun, who exhibits the greatest diversity of forms within the modern English pronoun system, having definite nominative, oblique, and genitive forms and equivalently coordinating indefinite forms. Though English pronouns can have subject and object forms, nouns show only a singular, plural and a possessive, non-possessive distinction. Note that chair does not change form between "the chair is here" and "I saw the chair," a distinction made by word order and context. Hierarchy of cases. Cases can be ranked in the following hierarchy, where a language that does not have a given case will tend to not have any cases to the right of the missing case. Nominative, accusative or ergative, genitive, dative, locative or prepositional, ablative, instrumental, vocative, others. This is only a general tendency. However, many forms of Central German such as Colonian or Luxembourgish have a dative case but lack a genitive. In Irish nouns, the nominative and accusative have fallen together, whereas the dative locative has remained separate in some paradigms. Irish also has a genitive and vocative case. Czech has both instrumental and vocative cases, but lacks an ablative, which was largely replaced by either the genitive or instrumental case. Latin has a nominative, accusative, genitive, dative, and ablative, and a locative in certain nouns, but lacks a prepositional and instrumental case. In Punjabi, the accusative, genitive, and dative have merged to an oblique case, but it still retains vocative, locative, and ablative cases. Old English had a nominative, genitive, accusative, dative and instrumental, but not a locative, vocative, or prepositional case Concord systems. In the most common case Concord system, only the final word in a phrase is marked for case. This system appears in Turkic languages, Mongolian, Quechua, Dravidian languages, many Papuan languages, Indo-Aryan languages, and others. In Basque and various Amazonian and Australian languages, only the phrase final word is marked for case. In many Indo-European, Balto-Finnic, and Semitic languages, case is marked on the noun, the determiner, and usually the adjective. Other systems are less common. In some languages, there is double marking of a word as both genitive and another case such as accusative. Declension paradigms. Languages with rich nominal inflection typically have a number of identifiable declension classes, or groups of nouns with a similar pattern of case inflection. While Sanskrit has 6 classes, Latin is traditionally said to have 5 declension classes, and ancient Greek 3 declension classes. In Indo-European languages, declension patterns may depend on a variety of factors, such as gender, number, phonological environment, and irregular historical factors. Pronouns sometimes have separate paradigms. In some languages, particularly Slavic languages, a case may contain different groups of endings depending on whether the word is a noun or an adjective. A single case may contain many different endings, some of which may even be derived from different roots. For example, in Polish, the genitive case has a, u, ow, I, y, e for nouns, and ego, ej, ik, y, ch for adjectives. To a lesser extent, a noun's animacy or humanness may add another layer of complexity. For example, in Russian, versus and. Examples. German. In German, grammatical case is largely preserved in the articles and adjectives, but nouns have lost many of their original endings. Below is an example of case inflection in German using the masculine definite article and one of the German words for sailor, der Seemann, the sailor, as a subject. Des Seemannes, the sailors, of the sailor. Dem Seemann, 2, 4, the sailor, as an indirect object. Den Seemann, the sailor, as a direct object. Greek. Modern Greek has 4 cases: nominative, genitive, accusative, and vocative. For neuters in most groups of feminines and plural masculines, only the genitive case differs from the other 3. Below is an example of the declension of Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron Sigma, which has a different form in the singular of all 4 cases, together with the appropriate article in both the singular and the plural. Nominative: Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron Sigma, Omicron Iota, Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron Iota. Genitive: Tau Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron Upsilon, Tau Omega Nu Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omega Nu. Accusative: Tau Omicron Nu Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron, Tau Omicron Upsilon Sigma Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron Upsilon Sigma. Vocative: Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Epsilon, Omicron Upsilon Rho Alpha Nu Omicron Iota. Ancient Greek had one additional case, the dative. At some point, it was replaced with the preposition epsilon iota sigma, followed by the accusative. This became necessary when pronunciation simplified, merging the 2 long vowels eta and omega to short. The result was that dative did not sound much different from the accusative in the singular of the first 2 groups. With time, only the sigma of epsilon iota sigma was left and got attached to the article, except when an article is not used and it becomes sigma epsilon instead. Below is an example with a modern dative is presented of the word pi omicron lambda eta. Nominative: eta pi omicron lambda eta, omicron iota pi omicron lambda epsilon iota sigma. Genitive: tau eta sigma pi omicron lambda eta sigma, tau omega nu pi omicron lambda epsilon omega nu. Dative: sigma tau eta nu pi omicron lambda eta sigma tau iota sigma pi omicron lambda epsilon iota sigma. Accusative: tau eta nu pi omicron lambda eta tau iota sigma pi omicron lambda epsilon iota sigma. Vocative: pi omicron lambda eta pi omicron lambda epsilon iota sigma. Latin: an example of a Latin case inflection is given below, using the singular forms of the Latin term for cook, which belongs to Latin's second declension class. Coccus, the cook, as a subject. Cocci, the cooks, of the cook. Cocca, 2, for the cook, as an indirect object. Coccium, the cook, as a direct object. cocker, by, with, from, in the, cook, in various uses not covered by the above. Cock, you, the cook, addressing the object. Latvian nouns have 7 grammatical cases: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, instrumental, locative and vocative. The instrumental case is always identical to the accusative in the singular and to the dative in the plural. It is used as a freestanding case only in highly restricted contexts in modern Latvian. An example of a Latvian case inflection is given below, using the singular forms of the Latvian term for man, which belongs to the first declension class. Nominative, vers; genitive, vira; dative, virum; accusative, varu; locative, vira; vocative, ver. Lithuanian. In Lithuanian, only the inflection usually changes in the 7 different grammatical cases. Nominative, tai yrasuo, this is a dog. Genitive, Thomas Pīmsons kaula, Tom took the dog's bone. Dative, Jizdave kaula kitam sunui, he gave the bone to another dog. Accusative, Jiznapraus sunny, he washed the dog. Instrumental, Jiz sunny mi izgazdanokates, he scared the cats with the dog. Locative, Susitiksime, Baltama sunny, we'll meet at the white dog. Vocative, Jiz susuko, sunny, he shouted. Hey, dog. Hungarian declension is relatively simple with regular suffixes attached to the vast majority of nouns. The following table lists a few of the many cases used in Hungarian. Romanian. An example of Romanian case inflection is given below, using the singular form of the Romanian word for boy, băiatul, the boy, as a subject, băiat, boy, as a direct object. Băiatul, the boys, of the boy. Băiatul, to the boy. Băiata, boy. Russian. An example of a Russian case inflection is given below, using the singular forms of the Russian term for sailor, which belongs to Russian's first declension class. The sailor, as a subject. The sailors, of the sailor. 2. For the sailor, as an indirect object. The sailor, as a direct object, with the sailor, as a direct object. About the sailor, as a direct object. Sanskrit grammatical case was analyzed extensively in Sanskrit. The grammarian Panini identified 6 semantic roles or karaka, which are related to the following 8 Sanskrit cases in order. For example, in the following sentence, leaf is the agent, tree is the source, and ground is the locus. The declensions are reflected in the morphemes amitano respectively. Tamil. The Tamil case system is analyzed in native and missionary grammars as consisting of a finite number of cases. The usual treatment of Tamil case is one in which there are 7 cases: nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative. In traditional analyses, there is always a clear distinction made between postpositional morphemes and case endings. The vocative is sometimes given a place in the case system as an 8th case, but vocative forms do not participate in usual morphophonemic alternations and do not govern the use of any postpositions. Modern grammarians, however, argue that this 8-case classification is coarse and artificial, and that Tamil usage is best understood if each suffix or combination of suffixes is seen as marking a separate case. Evolution. As languages evolve, case systems change. In early ancient Greek, for example, the genitive and ablative cases became combined, giving 5 cases, rather than the 6 retained in Latin. In modern Hindi, the Sanskrit cases have been reduced to 2, a direct case and an oblique case. In English, apart from the pronouns discussed above, case has vanished altogether except for the possessive-non-possessive dichotomy in nouns. The evolution of the treatment of case relationships can be circular. Adpositions can become unstressed and sound like they are an unstressed syllable of a neighboring word. A postposition can thus merge into the stem of a head noun, developing various forms depending on the phonological shape of the stem. Affixes can then be subject to various phonological processes such as assimilation, vowel centering to the schwa, phoneme loss, and fusion. And these processes can reduce or even eliminate the distinctions between cases. Languages can then compensate for the resulting loss of function by creating adpositions, thus coming full circle. Recent experiments in agent-based modeling have shown how case systems can emerge and evolve in a population of language users. The experiments demonstrate that language users may introduce new case markers to reduce the cognitive effort required for semantic interpretation, hence facilitating communication through language. Case markers then become generalized through analogical reasoning and reuse.